Donald Trump's sensational statement about the Russia-Ukraine war. Will Putin meet with Zelensky soon, or will he chicken out? What secret weapon did Trump give to Zelensky during their meeting in Washington? The Kremlin should get ready. The US and Ukraine are launching a joint large-scale production of long-range drones. That's what we're going to talk about right now, friends. My name is Alexander Prepodobny. Let me introduce our guest. Friends, please welcome Boris Pinkus, president of the Ronald Reagan Republican Club, to the Razborka Project broadcast. Hello, Boris. We're glad to see you.
Good afternoon, dear friends. Thank you. I'm glad to be on your channel.
We're talking at just the right time because right now Trump and Zelensky are actually giving a joint briefing to the press, and there's already something to discuss. So first of all, Trump said that the ninth war he will end will be the war between Russia and Ukraine. He says that there is a very good chance to end the war. But what bothers me, and I want to start with this, he says that both are great, but there's enmity between them. He's talking about Zelensky and Putin. They say they can handle things perfectly well, but they need to get rid of the hatred between each other. And it's precisely this hatred that prevents the war from being resolved. I think we'll do it. What the heck is Trump talking about? You are in New York. Explain, how are we supposed to understand this?
Well, that's his old perception of this war. That's what explains his mediation. It's stupid, absurd, I would even say immoral. He just can't understand. Honestly, when I was carefully listening to President Zelensky today, he really could have mentioned it quite briefly in passing, perhaps just a quick note. When he was being asked questions and when Trump was asking him, he could have said, especially in response to journalists' questions, that I have no personal issues to resolve with Putin. What we have is a conflict between my people who are victims of aggression, genocide being committed by the Russian people on my land. And I am the president of this country. I'm obligated to fulfill my duties to defend my country. That's what explains my opposition to Russia in the person of Putin. That's how he should have put it, of course. But let's put it this way. These explanations won't work either. Because you can't go against, with Trump, you always have to agree, you have to praise, you always have to sugarcoat things. Today, in fact, Zelensky was very restrained, even in his compliments toward Trump, although he should have showered him with compliments, since that's what Trump wants. Just like the leaders of European countries do, Macron, for example, and all the others. And yet, of course, Trump either doesn't understand or doesn't want to understand. When he keeps saying, this isn't our war, our people aren't dying there, there's an ocean between us, I'm just a peacemaker, I just want to help stop the killing. No, my dear, that's not your role. Your role is to restore justice. Your role is to take the side of good, so that this evil, having won here, does not spread its metastases to other corners of the globe and does not reach us, the Americans. That is your role, my dear Trump. You should have known this as the president of such a great country as America. That's who we were. Even if with a significant delay, as I recall, Roosevelt was during World War II. Truman was like that too, for example, a truly influential figure who significantly helped. South Korea was indeed able to withstand the aggression. And today, thanks to Truman's invaluable assistance, both in terms of dedicated manpower and essential weapons and resources, we have the prosperous nation we see. Yes, and President Kennedy also provided crucial defensive support to what is now known as Vietnam, a nation then facing considerable challenges. Yes, and Bush, even though he should have acted more wisely, both the elder and the younger, nevertheless, he rid the world of a dictator like Saddam Hussein. And yes, he even helped Israel with this. That's obvious. And you, Trump, are now trying to play the role of mediator, still not realizing that Putin keeps outmaneuvering you all the time. And won't your promised meeting with Putin in Budapest turn into another Alaska? A second Alaska? Is that so? That's what concerns us today. But at the same time, I wouldn't rush to draw conclusions. Why? Because naturally, of course, upon hearing the news,
that
there was a significant and widely discussed conversation that took place between President Putin and President Trump. Upon hearing this, I was already quite confused and perplexed as I immediately began to ponder and question the reasons behind such a meeting, thinking to myself, why would this conversation occur? Wasn't Alaska enough for you? But then after exchanging opinions with experts, including those in Washington, we were made to understand that we shouldn't rush to conclusions. The thing is, just because they promised to meet, plan to meet in Budapest, it doesn't mean the meeting will actually happen. It's no coincidence that Trump is passing on the negotiation process at the very start into the hands of Secretary of State Marco Rubio. This is not by chance. And judging by conversations, even from Trump himself, Putin has proposed something to us. It's still unknown what exactly, but he proposed something to Trump, and Trump most likely passed Putin's proposal to Marco Rubio so that he could, as they say, sound out this issue during his meeting with Lavrov. And depending on how realistic what Putin told him over more than 2 hours on the phone is, only then will they start planning the date, most likely the date of the meeting. I'm not sure that this meeting can even take place at all. I'm still not certain about that. Moreover, of course, it's frustrating that Trump keeps steering the conversation toward economic cooperation with Putin. I consider this immoral. It's a failure. Putin shouldn't be at the negotiating table, but in the defendant's seat, facing the highest degree of punishment. That's the only future for Putin. There is no other. And to talk about Russia's rare earth metals, energy resources, for example, and not just in Russia itself, but also in the Arctic and so on, it's terrible to hear that. Especially since today Zelensky arrived with a long list of proposals. Not just requests, but proposals as well. Today, Ukraine is not the same as it was on February 24th, 2022. Ukraine is much stronger today. Who could have truly imagined just a mere couple of months ago that not just any individual, but the powerful nation of America itself would be actively buying advanced drones from Ukraine? From that very same Ukraine, a nation which hadn't even seriously considered such a possibility before. At the start of the war, Ukraine wasn't even thinking about these drones. But today, Ukraine is astonishing the world with its innovations and with its strikes on these oil refineries and terminals, on Russian logistics deep in the heartland, 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers from Ukraine. Ukraine is the one doing this. So today, at this meeting, that was exactly what was discussed. What Ukraine is offering America today. And Trump openly stated that, yes, America is interested in Ukrainian drones. So what I want to say is that even if today, during negotiations with Zelensky, Trump tries to reassure Zelensky, and today Trump has to go and make some kind of concession to Putin, how? And the fact that promise that he will give for now, there will be no Tomahawks for Ukraine, provided that Putin must sit down at the negotiating table. But something else is offensive. Putin is a KGB agent. He uses all his skills. The goal is to delay, prolong, but not stop this war. He considers himself a winner. Why? Because today he's allowed to destroy schools, hospitals in Ukraine, highways, civilian buildings, and power plants. And today, on the eve of winter, he is obsessed with the desire to dive into darkness and cold for all of Ukraine in order to break the will of the Ukrainian people so that eventually they might come out into the streets and say, that's it, enough. We're ready to lay down our arms. Let it be whoever it may be, but we just want to live. That is Putin's goal. But 3.5 years have shown that Ukraine is unbreakable. It's not just that it is not just undefeated, it is unbreakable. And Boris, let me add, this needs to be understood. He didn't give up, he kept giving. By the way, today he said that the Ukrainian people are heroes, that they are fighting, and so on.
I want to ask you this. Yes, that's really true. And besides, The history of world wars shows that terror against the civilian population only consolidates society. That's all. And this too, at least for us. Although we really wish we didn't have to show this. This is the ultimate price. But nevertheless. But why not deliver the Tomahawks first and only then sit down with Putin to talk? Because what's happening now is really working in Putin's favor. Every week he shells large Ukrainian cities. We're heading into a cold winter. If Marco Rubio and Lavrov are going to, if they spend several weeks or even a month talking, Putin will keep up the shelling. We all understand that every day. Then, hypothetically, Trump will meet with Putin, and by then it's almost Christmas, and then it's spring. So let's just put it off until closer to Easter. Why let it get to that point, instead of just handing over the Tomahawks and waiting for Putin to call you himself and say, let's meet?
Exactly, that's my view. Everything should have been done to ensure the Ukrainian armed forces could go on the counteroffensive. That's the main thing. And when those Russian soldiers inevitably start to flee, and they most certainly will, it just takes a little sustained support for Ukraine with these crucial offensive weapons. That's absolutely enough for those already unmotivated and disheartened soldiers to quickly run away. By the way, there are now well over 5,000 Cubans and more than 3,000 South Koreans among their fighting ranks. Some even say there are now a staggering 30,000, an astonishing 30,000 North Koreans, plus numerous Africans and even many people from various parts of South America. Why do they need this? Just put a little pressure on them and they'll drop everything. They'll say our lives are worth more. Why the hell are we even here? We don't want to die. We need to go back to our wives, children, and parents. All of this will work. Moreover, if I were in Trump's or Putin's place, I would say, listen, right now, you stop the attacks, right this moment, and I'll continue talking with you. That's it. I'll stop launching Tomahawks. Stop today, and then we'll sit down at the negotiating table.
That's
how it should have been.
Then Peskov wouldn't be saying that the Putin-Trump meeting needs to be thoroughly prepared first. He said that today. So basically, we're not in a hurry. The meeting needs to be prepared first. And
that's just a delay. It could drag on for weeks or even months. That's exactly what Putin needs. That's what he wants. That's what he wants. Why? Guys, remember this. Putin feels comfortable in a state of war. He knows perfectly well that as soon as he stops the war, even just along this front line right now, and without reaching an agreement on the final status of the occupied territories, and I'll come back to this question a bit later, then what awaits him? Russians, even though they obediently support Putin today, eventually someone from his inner circle will ask, hey, where's Kyiv in 3 days? And where is Ukraine in a couple of weeks? Where is it? We've lost more than 1 million Russian soldiers killed and wounded. Not to mention the fact that today Russia is buying gasoline. It's frightening. Where is Russia exporting its energy resources now? Today, Russia is buying gasoline from Singapore and China. Can you imagine that? And the collapse of Russia's economy is inevitable and coming very soon. That's according to all economic experts. Of any rank, everyone is saying this. In other words, the collapse of Russia's economy is not far off. It's very close. And the same goes for the financial system. So Trump has all the cards in his hands. Now, there's just a little left to do to give Ukraine what it is asking for. And today, unfortunately, Trump is still obsessed with the idea of negotiating. By the way, he's doing the same thing not only in Ukraine, but also with terrorists, with Hamas, and with the same Iranian junta, the Ayatollahs. He still dreams of sitting down at the negotiating table. Although it is well known that with these terrorists, murderers, and regimes, no agreements can be made. Only force. Their destruction is the final solution to the issue. Only that. There should be no other way. Trump will come to this, unfortunately, with a significant delay. He is moving toward this. And still, despite the fact that today Trump will undoubtedly talk about Tomahawks to Zelensky, and he will try to persuade him, saying, come on, don't pressure me with these Tomahawks. I have to get you to the negotiating table, or sit down at the negotiating table with Putin myself. And refusing to supply Tomahawks to Ukraine today will be my concession to Putin. So in return, this is what I'm counting on. In that huge list from Zelensky, which Zelensky will put on the table today, has already put on the table for Trump, there will be Patriot systems, which Ukraine desperately needs. There will definitely be F-16 aircraft as well. There will be ATACMS as well. These are long-range missiles for HIMARS, definitely, without a doubt. And of course, guys, let's be completely objective here. After all, it was indeed former President Trump who ultimately gave the crucial order to develop and then supply special advanced missiles for Ukraine. For example, the Iranian ones, these are air-to-ground cruise missiles, specifically designed for MiGs and for F-16s. And the powerful missiles, also known as cruise missiles, specifically the Sunrise model, which are air-to-air class weapons, are again intended for MiGs and for F-16s. These are truly special aircraft designated just for Ukraine, and this particular decision was indeed made by Trump's order. That's absolutely true. So I genuinely don't think everything will turn out badly at all. Absolutely not. I'm quite sure that President Zelensky will leave today feeling entirely satisfied with the outcomes. He'll ultimately leave America feeling quite satisfied. Why is this the case? Because fundamentally, Tomahawk missiles are not a complete cure-all solution for every problem. A truly comprehensive and robust set of measures is absolutely essential and urgently needed to effectively ensure Ukraine's ultimate victory and long-term success. The first thing that needs to be done is to help the armed forces of Ukraine at the front lines. This, I repeat once again, means victory in the air. That means the F-16 aircraft. Without this, it's impossible to even think about victory. The second crucial thing, which is truly inseparable from the F-16 fighter jets, is the highly advanced Patriot air defense systems. President Zelensky recently and quite clearly stated that 203 strategically vital centers across Ukraine urgently and desperately need these sophisticated air defense systems. So I think, together with many European countries, Trump, by supplying Ukraine with these essential systems and aircraft, could significantly bolster their defenses. Specifically with American Patriot systems, which have been modernized, they can't be compared to the Patriot systems that European countries have today. Those are models from the 1980s. But today's Patriots, guys, they're already equipped with artificial intelligence. It's a huge difference. It's not the same thing at all. Just to give you an idea, the cost of a single Patriot system in the 1980s was $1 billion. Today's model costs $1 billion, 100 million. This is the model. The money is there. The money is there. And today, Trump repeated this at his meeting with Zelensky. And Europe emphasized that the money is there. But you know, Alexander, I still think that Zelensky should do something. Today, Ukraine is at such a stage that when the discussion turns to providing aid to Ukraine and Zelensky meets face-to-face with Trump, I would really like to see the leaders of European countries sitting next to Zelensky. Today, it would be great if NATO Secretary General Rutte was sitting next to him. Why? Because the war today is not only Ukrainian, it is a European war.
Today,
Rutte was supposed to.
he just wasn't invited because
No, Zelensky could have said, can I come with Rutte? That would have been great.
God truly only knows.
I don't think Trump would have refused. He couldn't have refused. Why? The money comes from Europe, my friends. And Trump is interested in money. Rutte would have said, we have the money, yes, and everything that's needed.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Allow me to ask an important question. Look, okay, we get it. Yes, we're trying to stay positive, but it's clear that Zelensky will most likely return without permission for the supply of Tomahawks.
There will be a delay. Yes, exactly.
This buffer is still something Putin can negotiate over. I think that's bad. Why? Because we see what's happening here in Ukraine every day when you
drive.
You know, it's not an attempt to elicit sympathy. It's a fact for our audience who are not in the right place. When you drive through the center of your city and see 15 apartments in a building burning because of a drone strike, you can't help but feel, what the hell? Who are you even thinking of talking to? Let them have the same thing happen in Moscow and then we can talk. so that there are at least some equal moral grounds for dialogue. Exactly. Because when your place is burning and your enemy's isn't, you want to talk, but he doesn't want to talk. It's that simple. But what the Ukrainian armed forces are doing, and I think this is fundamentally important, are the constant strikes on the Kremlin's oil industry. Just last night, another strike was carried out in Crimea on temporarily occupied oil depots. The village of Gvardiskoye was attacked. After that, I see the news is already coming from within Russia itself. And now, here's the news. A factory that produces ammunition is on fire in the city of Tomahawk. The factory is called Avangard. So we are witnessing the systematic destruction of Russian military assets. And this could also be the key to victory. What do you think? Could Trump approve this plan, so to speak? All right, you find out, meeting or no meeting. But after that, Russian military assets and oil refineries will continue to be destroyed.
Well, first of all, let me remind you that Trump has already expressed his opinion on how the war should end. He said that a country that does not go on the offensive cannot end the war with a just victory. Those were Trump's words. So he understands that Ukraine needs to be helped in such a way that it can go on the offensive. And without an offensive, the war will not end. The problem with Trump is that he asked the aggressor to come to the negotiating table. But it should be the other way around. The aggressor should be the one begging. Let's sit down at the negotiating table. And in order for the aggressor to beg, he must be forced to beg. And in order to force them, Ukraine must be given all types of weapons that will lead to disaster, to the defeat of Russian troops in the occupied territories, to their retreat. As soon as the offensive begins, believe me, Putin himself will be calling and saying, let's meet. Then the meeting will already be on Ukraine's terms. Only then. And today, while Trump still insists on wanting to meet again, I consider it humiliating, even insulting for us Americans. As for the results of today's meeting, what am I positive about? That Zelensky will not leave empty-handed. Let him give it. An F-16 aircraft. Not just 100 or 200, but 300 or 400. Let him provide the Patriot system. At least 50. At least 50. But will he? That's what we want. But will he? Maybe. 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 But does he want to? Yes. Willpower. Willpower is needed. I've said this in previous broadcasts, and I'll repeat it again. I have a lot of respect and trust for the opinion experts, one of whom you may know well, 4-star General Jack Keane, who currently works at our Washington Institute for the Study of War. I've known this outstanding general for many years. He is a great friend of Ukraine. He is one of those whom Trump consults with. So just this morning, he was on Fox News talking about how Trump will never just give up Ukraine. He will support it, but he expressed the opinion that the Tomahawks may not come today, they might come later. But today he will give Ukraine a great deal. Those were his words. I think that's how it will be. Zelensky will be encouraged today. He will receive it. Yes, as I already said, most likely there will be a delay for him in the delivery of Tomahawks. Nevertheless, Trump justifies this by saying that he needs to sit down at the negotiating table. I don't want to irritate him. I want to meet him halfway. He told me that this would break off our relationship. No. So Putin told him, if Tomahawks are delivered, well, I don't want to, in Trump's words, I don't want to strain our relationship for now. I want to sit down at the negotiating table. But Trump doesn't understand. What Putin needs is not only what he has already occupied and taken control of, but even more than that. Putin clearly wants to secure Crimea and 4 additional regions for himself permanently, and specifically within the borders of the regional centers, so that those territories which have not yet been occupied by the invaders are included. We're talking about 25% of Donetsk region, for example. Putin will definitely want that. No army from European countries as peacekeepers would set foot on Ukrainian soil. Putin will want the occupied territories to be legally secured by the Ukrainian Rada. He will demand this. I'm not even talking about Ukraine's non-membership in NATO. In other words, Putin will demand what will guarantee him in the future a direct path to occupying the remaining 80% of unoccupied Ukrainian territory. But why does he need this? so that he can later sell it to his own people to say, look, see what we've achieved. We have access to the Black Sea. Crimea is ours. 4 regions are ours. Those territories are rich in valuable resources. There is also black soil there. We are the ones dictating terms. Everything we wanted, we've accomplished. This is what he will sell to his cattle. But Zelensky will never agree to this. He will never agree. He has no right to agree to this. In any documents, no matter what they are, there is one thing: temporary loss. This situation represents a temporary loss of legitimate sovereignty over territories that are currently under temporary occupation. This is the only appropriate and correct way to view and manage this complex geopolitical situation. There should absolutely be no alternative or different approach considered, as this is the fundamental principle that must be upheld. Only this. That's why today, I'm sure, Zelensky told Trump, I am not expressing my personal hostility toward Putin. I am expressing the hostility of my people, and I am part of that people. He is the aggressor. He is on my land. He is committing genocide. That's how it is.
Then
Trump needs to understand this once again today. I think Zelensky will make him understand this. I think, definitely.
yes, I'll just say something as a joke at the end because, well, I'm monitoring the news in parallel, and our messages just keep coming in. So just to wrap up, I want you to comment briefly. So first of all, Russian propaganda is very happy that Pitt is leaving. Let me remind you, he is the head of the Pentagon. He supposedly came to the Trump and Zelensky meeting wearing a tie in the colors of the tricolor, the Russian flag. That's what they saw. I don't know, in general,
What?
kind of signs they keep finding. He was
Colorful. No. I noticed. No, there was nothing close to the Russian flag. It was colorful. There were several colors. For
them, that's a sign. Yes, that's how they interpret it. But to wrap up, I want to ask, Trump was asked here, how does he feel about the idea of building a tunnel between Russia and Alaska? He said it's quite interesting. What do you think? Will Trump actually go through with this project? Yeah, we're kind of for Tomahawks, for victory. Or maybe he'll just say now, listen, everything's great. Chukotka, Alaska, let's go, guys.
Well, look, Putin is trying to offer Trump some sweet deals, even though they'll never actually happen. Never. It's just that knowing Trump's weakness, he makes these kinds of offers. He's not a sweet tooth. He
needs a burger. I'll give you
this, I'll give you that. Just leave Ukraine alone. We'll make a deal. We'll have peace, friendship, and whatever you want. That's it. And as for Trump, well, what can I say? Let Putin enjoy the promises for now. But it will all come down to the fact that even if the Budapest meeting takes place, it will be Alaska #2. I have no doubt about that. But the problem is something else. Even as we speak right now, and while Trump talks about some future plans and so on, bombs are falling, rockets are falling on long-suffering Ukraine. We are losing our people. That is the tragedy, Trump. He should have said yesterday, I repeat, Putin, you stop the attacks and the shelling of Ukraine right now, and I will continue talking with you. Otherwise, I hang up the phone. That's it. I don't want to talk to you. Only that way.
Thank you.
That's how it should be.
Thank you, Boris, for your stance. Thank you for your support, for informing the people who support Ukraine. It is very important to us what people in the United States think, what the political elites think, including those you represent. Thank you. Boris Pinkus, president of the Ronald Reagan Republican Club, was on the air of the Razborka project. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you very much. We will win. There is no doubt about it. And simply, unfortunately, that's our fate. Before these thorns, to approach the truth, to approach victory. And the truth is victory. That's why I once again express my admiration for the Ukrainian soldiers. Glory to the Ukrainian soldier. And we will win. There is no doubt about it. There's not much left. And I repeat once again, Zelensky will leave satisfied. I really hope for this. He will leave with a long list of weapons that America will supply and has already begun to supply, and much more that will not be made public. In any case, there is information that America will and is already supplying new types of weapons for field testing, specifically in Ukraine. This is very important. And Zelensky did not come empty-handed either. He came with a list of Ukrainian drones, which America is in great need of. I mentioned this. You know that today, at this very moment, when the former president, Donald Trump, is actively waging a significant and costly war against the powerful and dangerous drug cartels operating in Venezuela. A single, precisely aimed missile strike on some illicit drug boat, potentially carrying several hundred kilograms or even multiple tons of illegal narcotics costs, believe it or not, this is truly astonishing, over $900,000 for just one solitary missile. Oh. And the cost of a Ukrainian naval drone ranges from $200,000 to $300,000. So look, for the price of one missile, America could buy 4 Ukrainian drones. That's where Trump's interest lies. And today, Zelensky will say, tit for tat. You give us what we need and we give you drones. No problem. And you'll even save money.
Yes, this proposal has already been made. Let's hope that this lead will also bring us success. Thank you, Boris. Take care of yourself.
The best. Thank you.